Hello, everybody. This is Vinny Massacole of S&V Sports, along with
Sean Cacaro.
Sean. How are you?
I'm not too bad. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I can't believe it's already here. At the time of this recording, it's about 12:30 on Super Bowl Sunday. I can't believe football season's over today. It's kind of sad.
It is. I always go through I always go through like how you go through like the blues when I don't know, Christmas is over, or when like
Yeah,
something that this is kind of the same thing. This
yeah,
is
exactly.
Christmas for sports fans, for football fans, right?
Right. Yep.
Um,
Oh man,
but the
but
good thing about football is the season. It really never ends. It really never
that
ends.
is
It's
true
always
because
It's
football
always a consistent,
always news coming out of the NFL or
um,
college.
exactly. So speaking of news, I want to go over first
We
the
want to talk about
article
Super
that was
Bowl.
in. Well, yeah, let's go over Super Bowl first because that's
So
that's kind of important since we're recording the day of, right before. Um, let's go over the spread is 1.5 as I speak right now. And ESPN has their own. By the way, now that we're recording, we now know ESPN has their own betting site now.
yes, they do,
So
and we
so
can
they
actually
have
say that now.
they have their own. So
ESPN bet.
the spread is 1.5.
Mhm.
The over under is 47.5, and the Chiefs have the money line. The money line is even, and I'm not always 100% sure how the money line works always. So, um,
Yeah.
you
Kickoff
know,
6:30 CBS. Let me ask, did you put in a Super Bowl pool for this year?
I did not put
I
in
did.
the square thing.
Yes. I
Did not
have
do the squares this year.
I have an odd one, but I'm hoping I'm right. In Kansas
What
City 8,
numbers?
San Francisco 3. So,
Um,
yeah, it's I picked a wacky one,
yeah,
but
but doesn't it have to have an 8 in it or a 3 in it
that's
at the end?
that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it
So it
works.
could
Is
be
the
28.
second.
It could
Yeah,
be
28-23.
28,
If it's
23, or something like that.
it doesn't matter who wins as long
Hmm.
as I get those
That's
2
the way that
right,
works. Yeah.
I win.
You'll be
So,
fine, man. You'll be all right. You'll be
I
all right.
I
Eight
I
and three is probably a good thing. I
I
mean,
went with the bold one. I didn't wanna go with the usual,
mhm.
5-0 or
5-0 would be
4-3.
4-3 would be good. Um, I mean, I always think like
Remember the Super
if
Bowl.
you go in sevens,
Yes.
because it never works that way though.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
teams don't score exactly seven and
It's not high
set.
school.
Yeah,
It's not high
exactly,
school.
exactly. Because sometimes there's field goals,
So,
and if there's a safety, God forbid, right?
yeah,
So
exactly. Well, again, with the Super Bowl, you're bound to see a couple of wacky plays, whether it's trick plays or safeties or 2-point conversions on touchdowns. So anything
right,
could happen. That's the
right,
interesting part. So if it comes down to a situation where
right.
it's 28-23, San Francisco just
Hmm.
scored and they have to go for two, I'm
Yeah.
gonna feel like my life is on the line because I
S-
I got some good money on this.
So I will say the Chiefs left guard Tooney is out with a pectoral injury of the Super Bowl.
Okay,
That could be big. Um,
that's probably the most.
Tony's not going to play.
They
I'm
still
looking at it
have,
right now.
yeah, they still have
Um,
McKinnon is questionable.
McKinnon to be determined.
Yes,
And this is as of like kind of right now, right before the game. But
yes,
there there's two things in the Super Bowl that I want to touch on. The first thing is
we don't want either to win.
we're not really into either team, although
Don't
I know
like
there are a
either.
lot of Swifties out there that are, we have to go over that big elephant in the room, Sean, of the Swifties. And I understand, and you put
Why?
as and if you're listening to this on a on like Spotify or something, Sean just put a terrible towel over his head because he's a Steelers fan.
I don't
So
want to see a
anyway,
picture of these
so
two.
we
I really don't, because I don't like
oh,
Kansas City because this whole Taylor Swift nonsense. I don't like San
now come
Francisco because
oh, hold on.
their fans have a problem
I
with
get
us.
it. I get it, Sean. But we'll look at the two team. Let's just look at the two teams face value as is. Okay.
Okay,
Let's leave Taylor Swift out of it. You have to put Kelsey in there because he's a major player in the game,
of
obviously.
course.
Who would you now? I have an opinion on this. I want you to answer me this question. Who do you think is the most complete team of the two teams? And I'm
I'm
going
gonna
somewhere with this.
say San Francisco.
Okay, that's
They
what I
have a
think.
they have a solid all around defense. So does Kansas City,
Yeah.
but not to their level, in my opinion. And when it
So,
comes to the offense, yeah, Brock Purdy may not be. Yeah, I mean, I know he's in the MVP. He was in the MVP conversation. I don't think he was
mhm,
that good, but he
right.
has so many great pieces around him. He has a good offensive line. Whereas I don't, I just think overall they're a better team than Kansas City.
Right. How
So,
much? So, okay, the other question I have is this is an obvious one, and I'm asking this just for the sake of the podcast itself. Who is the better quarterback?
oh, that's easy, Pat Mahomes.
Okay. Do you think that the quarterback, along with the tight end, now granted they're going to need a little bit of defense,
Of course.
can actually pull this off and beat the as we both are thinking, the better team?
Hmm. I think they can. I mean, we've seen that we saw Kansas City do it. What's it been? 4 years now. 4 years ago. So we know
Mhm.
that they can do it.
Right.
They faced
It
off
was a different
against them.
team, I think, back then, though.
It was,
A little
but the
bit different team.
defense is still relatively the same,
Yeah,
in my
but they had
opinion.
a guy named you know, Tyreek Hill
That's
on that
true,
team.
but
It was pretty much a game
and
changer.
I think that's the X factor here is can Kansas City's receivers step up against this defense?
Yep.
And they have done that over the last couple weeks now with this 2 week break that we don't know what to expect with these two teams,
Hmm.
but I'm still leaning when it comes to the QB tight end duo. I
Hmm.
will right now take Brock Purdy over Brock Purdy and George Kittle over because you know what the thing is Brock Purdy doesn't have to just rely off his tight end. He has great receivers around him. Whereas, in my opinion, I don't know. Can you really say Pat Mahomes has like a true number one receiver out there? We know it
No,
ain't Darius
other
Tony.
than other than Kelsey,
Other than Kelsey.
that's probably and you're going to rely heavily on the running game too. I mean, you're going to have to, I don't know and I know what's his name is playing Pacheco. He's playing.
Yes, he is playing.
You're going to have to rely heavily on him, and I know what's his name, Edward Hilaire is probably going to play too.
Yeah.
Um, you have to run the ball too,
Hmm.
and this is not a defense where you can say that you're going to run the ball with consistency.
Yes.
Um, whereas I think on the other side you have a guy like McCaffrey who can shred up pretty much any defense he wants. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he's good enough to,
He can
and
do it.
and that's not only the run game, but in the pass game too.
Yeah.
So, um, I mean, I thought actually that Detroit actually had a shot of
Hmm.
beating San Francisco, but then I
Well,
kind of looked
that's
at
see,
the defense and I was like,
that's
not
why
really.
though this matchup's interesting because you look at San Francisco the last couple weeks, they have not played their best
They have
football.
not. Green Bay should have
Green
beat them
Bay
too.
almost did it.
Yep.
Detroit almost did it.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of why I think Kansas City will still win this game is because the Niners just have not looked themselves this postseason. I don't know what it is. It's just it's hard to say, but that's
Right.
sort of why it feels 50-50. You have Kansas City who's playing their best football all season right now, and San
Right.
Francisco who yeah they aren't go. It's not like they were playing like that 3 week stretch where they looked absolutely horrendous,
Well,
but they are not playing their best football right now. Now, again, with the bye week in between, it could be a completely different story tonight. We just don't know, and that's the tough part about this. Is first off, I'm going to tell you this: I don't like that there's the week break. I wish they'd just get rid of the Pro Bowl
I
altogether.
don't like the week break either,
I don't
but
like waiting a
I
week.
get it. I get it.
Uh,
It's always been like that though.
Not
You
always.
have to.
Remember, the Pro Bowl used
No,
to come after Super Bowl.
that is true, but I think
The 2 week break, that bye week in between is actually more recent, not super recent, like what 10-15 years ago.
right.
Maybe not that
Right.
long, but you get what I'm saying. I don't like the break in between. I get why they do it. They want to put the best possible product on the field.
Right.
But to me, I don't know. It loses its luster a little bit. I mean, this is a Super Bowl that people aren't are. This is a Super Bowl that not everybody's already hyped for. There's not. There's there's not that buzz around the Super Bowl this year like there always is. It's because the two teams that everybody did not want there is there. Everybody wanted Baltimore, Detroit. I didn't want Baltimore there, but
Right.
I think that's the thing. These are two teams that people are tired of. Now the Niners obviously haven't won in a long time, but they have 5 Super
Mhm.
Bowls. Kansas City's been dominant the last couple years. We know, people are tired of seeing these two, and I think
Well,
that 2-week break only hurt the Super Bowl more than it helped. Not by much. I'm
y-
not saying it's losing people. I mean, but you get what I'm trying to say.
and you could say Dan Campbell blew that game against San
Yeah.
Francisco,
Yeah,
as
you
opposed
can.
to as opposed to San Francisco winning that game. Now, I wouldn't say that, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that I mean, there's a lot of like big time ESPN people that probably think that, and big time, people at others,
Yeah.
platforms that probably think the same thing. Um, I man, I it's hard for me to root for San Francisco too because of living in Seattle, that
Yeah.
whole Seattle
Rivalry.
San Francisco rivalry, the Seattle fans calling the 49ers the 40 whiners. Um, that kind of was ingrained in me for 20 years when I lived there because, I never really liked the 49ers. I
Mhm.
knew, I liked, Joe Montana was good, obviously.
Yeah.
You had a lot of good players that played for that team. Obviously, the rivalry between them and Dallas. But
Mhm.
um,
See, actually, what's interesting too, while I was at work a lot this last week, I was asking Eagles fans about who they
mhm,
were pulling for, and a lot of them are still pulling for the Chiefs. And you know why? It's because they
yeah.
love Andy Reid. A lot of them do. So a lot of
Yeah,
them.
they're loyal. But you know what the funny thing is about Philly fans is they wanted him out so
Oh, I know
long.
they did.
And
That's the
that's
funny
that's
part.
such and that just kinda drives me nuts too.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted the guy out, he's finally out, and he's succeeding,
And now y'all are pulling for
and
him.
now y'all are pulling for him, so that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
But
um,
that's
that's the
sort of the
beauty of
theme.
sports though too,
Exactly. So
so.
that's been the theme around at least my areas. There's a lot of Eagles fans who are still pulling for Kansas City. So
So, speaking about all that, do you wanna pick this game as
yes,
far
I
as,
do. I want to see
I
how.
will, and you know what? Unlike our radio show, I will pick a score in this game.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. See that now we're stepping up because that was the
I
thing when
will.
on our radio
I
show.
never picked a I never picked a I never
Never
picked a
did. I
score
always did.
because I was always because the one thing is I never picked a score right and I never came close. So, that's why I didn't wanna embarrass myself. So go ahead.
Oh, all right. It's tough because again, the 2-week break, we don't know what kind of teams we're getting right now.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go. Oh my goodness, it's tough. I can't wait to see how poorly this is gonna age.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, yeah, we're putting this I mean, YouTube's gonna know, and so is, like,
Yeah,
Spotify and
they can
whoever
go
else.
back and they
They can
can
go back and say, "Ha ha, you were wrong, Mr. Picard."
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say San Francisco wins
Mhm.
28. mm, 28-24. I
Okay.
think I'm gonna be. Yeah, I think San Francisco wins 28-24. I think it's gonna come down to um, the defense making a stop, and Kansas City in the final 2 minutes is going to be on offense. San Francisco is going to make a stop, and I think that's how they win the game. So I'm going to go San
Okay.
Francisco
Okay.
28-24.
Okay.
I'd rather see Kansas City win, but
Yeah, I'm gonna go the opposite way, and I'm gonna go Kansas City because I think even though I know that the San Francisco 49ers are the better team, I just can't man, it's kinda like and he's not and this drives me crazy too. He's not in the rarefied air of Tom Brady yet,
no, he's
okay?
got a ways to
Everybody
go.
slow down because I know, um, again, watching WEEI, they go nuts when they put Mahomes and Brady in the same category.
For those who don't know, that's Boston's
That's Boston's radio
radio
station,
stations,
okay?
sports talk.
So for all the Boston fans out there, I agree with you, okay? Because trust me, I watch Brady beat my team every week for 2 weeks
Those who
out of the
don't
year.
know, Vinny's a Jet fan.
Right, exactly. Big Jet fan. So, anyway, I would say that the Chiefs beat the 49ers, and I'm gonna go 27-23.
Oh, you're gonna have me 1 point off my
I'm
My
gonna go
bold
1 point off. I'm gonna go 1
Oh
point
my
off of
goodness,
you.
if you're right, we're gonna have a problem.
I'm gonna go 27-23 Chiefs. Um, kind of, I guess, going with the over under. Maybe like actually, if I'm going 27-23, I'm going over.
No,
Yeah,
so you
going
have
over.
them clearing the spread,
I'm clearing the spread,
and yes, I think you're right,
and
that
I have them going over.
what is the over-under for
Um,
this week? The
the over under
over-under
is 47.5. If you
surprise.
go by ESPN, if you go by
Yeah,
it. Um,
alright.
and the point and a half is interesting because it's a neutral site game.
Mhm.
So the rules for like,
No home field
you know,
advantage.
a home field advantage, the 3 points, that goes out the window.
Yeah, mhm.
So if you think about it, the 1.5, you can
Now let's
it's they
make
they think it's gonna be close. So
let's make this prediction because these are 2 teams that have taken over Vegas before. Who has
oh
more
boy.
fans tonight? Kansas City or San Francisco? I say San Francisco. Closer
Only
to
because it's closer, but I think Kansas City,
I'm actually curious, how do
because
you
of all the
think
Swifties out there, I think Kansas City has a bunch of fans too.
how do you think Raider fans feel that their 2 most hated teams are playing in the Super Bowl in their stadium? That's
Yeah,
gotta be killing them.
that's almost, if you wanna if
That's
you
like
wanna
when we
change it,
went
then be in the game, be
that's like
better.
when the Eagles and the that's like when the Eagles and the Patriots were in the Super Bowl. That's like such a that's what I compare it to. 'Cause for me,
Yeah.
that was like worst
So
possible Super Bowl for me.
yeah, I just yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Um, but I just, I I think you gotta go with the quarterback on this one. I think Purdy makes a mistake
That's
that costs
understandable.
him the
And
that costs
people
him
are
the
kind of
the game.
sleeping. People are kind of sleeping on um Kansas City's defense and
They're
how
good.
good they
They're
are
good.
good.
I like Snead. Snead's good.
Yeah.
He can lock up, unlike other teams, I think he follows the number one receiver around.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, Ayuk's good too, though. So that's the thing. You cover Debo, you have Ayuk, and you got to find somebody to cover, you know, McCaffrey out of the backfield.
hmm
Um, which I think Greenlaw can kind of cover
Yeah.
him a little bit. So yeah, it's gonna be a chess match between the two teams, and that's
In
great
the
about
end,
football.
the
You know,
best thing we can hope for tonight, no matter who wins, is at least get a good game. If
good
it's
game, and the commercials better be better than last year.
then every year, like, I don't know what's going on. The Super Bowl
Yeah,
commercials suck anymore. I
yeah.
don't.
We're gonna get some Marvel ones. We're gonna
Are
get some
you
good Marvel ones,
are
I
you
think.
watching the halftime show? I'm not.
No, not a big Usher guy.
I'm not.
No.
I'm not either. I mean,
But there's gonna
to
be other
me,
people like Reba McEntire supposed to be
yeah.
there.
Supposedly, there's gonna be like a guest or something. See,
Yeah,
for
Reba
me,
McEntire, and there's somebody else too.
the peak Super Bowl performance, and I'm probably gonna differ with you in terms of music genres. For me, was when Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, when
No,
they all
actually,
did.
I
That's
thought it was the no.
oh,
I
okay.
agree with you 100%. I thought that
That
was the
was
best.
that's gonna be forever my favorite. I don't think
But
I can that can ever be
beca-
beat.
because when they rolled out all of the older people, they were not as good.
Yeah.
Like the Rolling Stones when they did it, they weren't
Right.
as good. Madonna, the people
Yeah.
say Madonna was all right, but I don't know. She wasn't, but I
Mhm.
hear she does a good show nowadays. But anyway,
But yeah,
um, but
I
still,
agree. So,
so from two franchises that are at the top of their game to one of the most,
dysfunctional.
I hate to say, dysfunctional franchises. It's been in the news, and if you're not a Jets fan, you can either turn
You're
this
one
off
lucky
for a little
soul.
bit or whatever if you don't want to, or if you're a Jet hater, you might like this. Um, but we're
If you're
gonna
not a
go over
Jet
the.
fan if you're not a Jet
Um,
fan, you're a lucky soul.
you are you are very lucky. Um, so the article in the Athletic done by, and I have to get the names right, Zach Rosenblatt and I would say now the great Diana Russini, whom I hear actually makes more money than a lot of people right now because she's very hot, very good at what she does. She's very
Yes.
good at what she does. Um, even though she she has and I don't want to feed into rumor, but there is a thing out there that she does not like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, join the club, right? So,
Hmm.
and Aaron Rodgers doesn't like her either. So this article came out, and it starts out as a kind of a synopsis of the season, basically, of Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, what happened during that time, how they got there, you know.
Right.
Um, it goes on to better understand the issues that contributed to another failed season. The Athletic spoke to 30. So there was 30 sources in and around the organization that were granted anonymity to speak freely about the inner workings of the team. My question off the bat is, were these sources, was it the equipment guy?
The
Was it one of the guys that got let go?
water boy.
I don't know, because they're anonymous.
Was it
And it
you, Vinny?
speaks of, right.
Was it you,
And
Vinny?
whenever it wasn't me, I wasn't even on Um, but those sources described a team riddled with excuse making, a paranoid head coach, an ill equipped offensive coordinator, and an organizational tunnel vision on the quarterback that rubbed some teammates wrong. That one, he rubbed one teammate wrong, according to this article. And it's far from what we saw on Hard Knocks, by the way.
Yeah.
I could have told you Nathaniel Hackett was bad. I was all in when Rodgers was going to be the quarterback. As the season went on, there was no way that Nathaniel Hackett knew how to get this offense shaped around another quarterback. You
Hmm.
could have put Joe Montana in this offense, he would have failed, because this was and they're right. This was a tunnel vision of Nathaniel Hackett just putting the offense in for Aaron Rodgers, and that's it, and not having a backup plan. Okay, that's the first thing.
Hmm.
The second thing is, who are you going to blame for this whole thing? Who do you blame? Do you blame Joe
It's
Douglas for not
just
bringing in a
about
backup
anybody.
quarterback? Do you blame Rob Saleh for the undisciplined team that they had, because they were undisciplined?
Yeah.
Um, you know, and then the article goes on to say that he was so paranoid that he wanted to check the phones of every single person that was in his room, all of his coaches,
Oh,
because he wanted to find who leaked out certain things out of that locker room.
you know what? The way this already sounds, it's almost at a point where was getting Rogers even worth it for it to lead to all of
Some people are saying no.
I agree. I mean, I was saying this from the start, and I know you were excited. I know a lot of Jets fans were
Mm.
excited. You have
I'm
to
still
realize,
excited, Sean. I'm
but
still
you
excited.
still have to realize, one, how's he going to bounce back from this injury? Is he going to be himself? I don't think he is, especially behind that. If that's the same offensive line next year,
Oh, it better not be. If you
then
if
he's not
if you
lasting
heard what
long.
Woody said,
He's not
Woody said,
lasting long. But you're also talking about a guy. You even saw it in his last season in Green Bay. Not himself. He's not playing at the level he once was. You know, you got him all these pieces, and those pieces look completely lost without him. It's just it seemed like a desperate attempt, and I understand why. I know you're gonna say, well, we haven't been there. What's it been? 12 years, 13 years, something like that since the last time they were in the playoffs. But at some point you have to think long term. And I think that's what the Jets need to do is they really need to think next year, are we going to go all in and put in every resource we got to make this a Super Bowl winning team? Or are we going to have to start thinking long term?
I mean, at this point, Sean, what are you going to do? You have the 10th pick in the draft. Okay. They're already talking about trading. Actually, remember when I told you off the air, I told you off of the podcast in
Mm-hmm.
private that I wanted the kid from Notre Dame. I wanted all.
Oh, yeah. You did tell me that. Yep.
Chances are now, well, from what I'm hearing from other things that I'm listening to, they're going to trade out of that first round pick to get more picks, which is smart.
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't get. But from what I heard, they're going to trade down to 12, so they're only going to
No,
trade
it's
down 2
two
spots.
picks. You lose.
Right.
Yeah.
They
So,
probably will not get the guy from Penn State,
so let me
and they
ask you this.
definitely will not get the guy from Notre Dame.
Let me ask you this. As a Jet fan, I want to know what you think. What would you rather see this team do? Would you rather see them go out? Now I don't know what the salary cap situation looks like, but
They can free up if they restructure. From what I'm hearing, they can actually free up about 70 million.
so would you rather them go all out, get as many pieces as needed to make this a Super Bowl team, or try to anyway, whether that's through trades, free agency, draft, whatever? Or would you rather think long term and put your focus in on the draft and upgrading this team that you have now?
Yeah.
How do you
Um,
look at this?
um, as I would, I'm not going to speak for all Jet fans because I'm not all Jet fans. Me personally, because I've seen, and I think a lot of other Jet fans have seen so much losing and
Hmm.
so much crap, and I want that Super Bowl in the next 2 years. So a rebuild is not what I want. I
Okay.
don't want to reset. I don't want, but I also don't want this dysfunction, and maybe you can't have it both
And
ways.
that's the thing. I don't think you
Maybe you
can have
can't
both.
have it both ways, but I don't care, Sean. And I'm talking to you from like
I'm
years of frustration.
oh, I can hear it. I trust me. I understand.
If
Well, I can't say I understand,
the
but
reading that, and I'm going to read you another line. That's what Aaron wants, was a common refrain from Hackett as he told coaches what plays he wanted to run during camp. Often Rodgers
that's
would hear Hackett's play call and want something else, so the entire offense would have to reset.
see, that's my problem with this.
Here's the thing though. I, if it's going to be successful though, let's freaking do it, man.
Yeah, but you have to consider though,
You're
at
not going to
his
talk me out
age,
of this, Sean. You're
I'm
not
just
going
saying,
to ever
hear me
talk
out.
me out of
Hear
this,
me out
ever.
though. Hear me out though.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, okay. He wanted the offense to run designed around what he wants to run. I get that. But you always have to consider what if. And unfortunately that what if became
That
true
what if
4 plays
happened.
into the
I get that.
season.
I get that.
So
I get
I'm
that.
not saying don't do what Rodgers wants, because obviously if Rodgers is the guy that can take you to the promised land, you do that, but you always have to prepare for worst case scenario, and the Jets didn't do that, and that's why
Right.
they're in this spot. If
Right.
the Jets had done that, maybe they would have been in a different spot. Because we know how good that defense is. We saw what this team did the year prior before the end of the season collapse. That's all I'm trying to say is in this past season, it felt very unprepared for the
Mhm.
worst case scenario, and that's something maybe again you could say I'm spoiled for because I've seen the Steelers in worst case scenarios and
Yeah, but see,
somehow
coming from you, and don't take offense to this.
no, of
That
course
means
not.
absolutely nothing to me because you've seen all the winning.
I get that, and I
You haven't
understand that.
seen the straight losing seasons that I've seen. I mean, maybe
I understand.
Detroit Lions fans can't even say that anymore.
No, that's right. They're in
So
for them this season was
they're
their best
there now,
season ever.
and they're going to stay there. I think.
Hmm.
That's just, and we'll go over that again when we talk about the Lions when we get down our list of
Yes.
teams. Um, you know, even that Cowboy game, I sat there with a bunch of friends, and I said, "Why are they not giving Dwayne Brown help against
Hmm.
Micah Parsons?"
I agree.
This article states Hackett struggled to make adjustments against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 2. Keith Carter, who is the offensive line coach, asked Hackett to give left tackle Dwayne Brown more help blocking Cowboys star pass rusher Micah Parsons,
Hmm.
according to multiple team sources. But Hackett never adjusted and Parsons dominated. Is this problem with Hackett? I think so. Because not even Rodgers, from what this article says, agrees with everything Hackett says. And
That's fair.
Hackett's basically just a yes man to Rodgers.
Hmm.
So if you're letting Rodgers run the offense, why don't you bring in somebody else and let Rodgers like make the calls?
Yeah.
and just have the same type offense, at least you'll get somebody who can actually maybe formulate a game plan for another quarterback,
Mhm.
which is and I understand that Hackett and him are very close,
Yes.
but but I go back to the top of the food chain. I go up to Joe Douglas and I say, why did we not get a guy like Chad Henne, even
Mhm.
Carson Wentz, Colt McCoy, or Joe Flacco or Jacoby Brissett?
Mhm.
Why did we not get one of those guys? Why did we
I
go
agree.
with Zach Wilson?
I agree
Now, some would
1000%.
say, now there's rumors that also say that Rex Hogan, uh, the head of scouting and everything, wanted Zach. He basically picked Zach. He told Joe Douglas, "You need to pick this guy." I I don't know. Was he the one? But he's a perfect scapegoat because he's gone now. He's the one. He left,
Yeah.
so will never know until everybody like. But
Till we see
from
how
what
everything plays out.
well, and what he said this week, other than giving which I should think he still should have given an edict to go to the playoffs, but basically saying if we have another failed season, all the coaches are gone. Joe Douglas is gone this year because you've had
Yeah.
6 seasons under Douglas, and 4 seasons under Rob Sala,
Mhm.
and it hasn't gone well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what though? Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to say because of the fact that it puts those coaches on notice. Now they know. I'm sure they probably had an idea prior, but now they know. All
Yeah,
right, if we screw this up,
yeah.
we're out of a job.
My
And
only
that should be
concern
enough to
is when you're coaching or being a GM scared, you may make a few mistakes or do
that's
some things that you're
that's the downside.
not really,
Yeah, that's
you
the
know,
downside.
that's the downside of doing this. But
Mhm.
I think you're right though in a way that it needed to be said by the owner.
Yeah,
Because Woody, I mean, as much as we want to like as Jet fans like want to joke on Woody all the time and say he's a horrible owner, he came out and said the right stuff this week.
he did. I think he did.
And I will say, you know, I really would hate to have to go through another coaching staff and another GM because I mean we've gone through Gase and I mean the Gase thing was horrible.
Yeah.
But I mean we've gone through Todd Bowles, who wait, Todd Bowles, he led his team to the
Super Bowl.
playoffs with Baker Mayfield, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So were we
And they
wrong
actually
about
played a
Todd
good
Bowles?
game, and they
Right.
won a game and then played another competitive game against Detroit.
So were we wrong about Todd Bowles? Did we let him go early? Did we that's all the questions the Jet fans ask. Look at Geno Smith. And I know Geno Smith is not as good as as his first starting season in Seattle,
Yeah.
but he's serviceable. He would have made a pretty decent backup to Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers,
exactly. And
you
you
know?
know, he actually took a Seattle team that, in my opinion, is not that good. I mean, yeah, he's got some good pieces around him, but he
Right.
actually made that team pretty at least relevant, and
Yeah.
that was hard to do coming in replacing Russell Wilson. That's no easy task for anybody. And
Well,
Geno Smith handled it
yeah.
beautifully.
Well, we know what happened to Russell Wilson though. So
Oh, yeah, but
he didn't even play the last few games of his career.
yeah, I think
And
he's just
and
about
we'll talk
done.
more about the Denver Broncos. That's a mess over there too, by the
Yeah,
way.
we'll have a series coming up
But
soon about the
to
East
wrap,
Division.
let me wrap this all up because we're at 34
34
minutes.
minutes. Yep.
um, but just the whole Seattle Salah's mantra is positive vibes only.
Mhm.
But behind closed doors, the vibes weren't always positive, especially when Salah would see negative press reports. He would often bring up how, in his mind, the Giants don't get as much negative coverage as the Jets.
Yes.
Let me tell you this. If you're the head coach of a New York team or a manager, I could care if it's me, I could care less about the other team in New York.
Mhm. That's fair.
You do not d- don't worry about that stuff. That's all noise.
Yeah. And that's the tough part about playing in a big market is you have to tune out the noise, and if you can't do it, you can't be in there. You can't be in that city. Simple as that.
So, and then the whole Zach Wilson thing, I guess the Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers thing fell apart. It's kind of like, I guess Zach Wilson kind of saying never meet your heroes
Yeah.
because he's like he was disenchanted by
Well, he
Rodgers.
definitely made Rogers' life a living hell.
Yeah, I know, but just the way they stuck by Wilson and all this stuff. I mean, it was just I don't know. I don't know. We'll go over what the Jets need. I'm not going to go over that today because that's not what we're talking about. But
Right.
because they have picked 10 as of now. But I just this team better go in a positive direction,
Yeah.
um, and soon
Yeah, and we'll
because
definitely be debating how this goes throughout the
yeah,
off season when free agency starts and the draft starts.
right.
There'll be a lot to talk about.
So speaking of, let's shift gears to two teams this week. We're going to go over. So we're going to go over two teams every week. We're going to go over them pretty not not quick, but not we're not going to like spend a lot of time. Uh, but let's go over the number one pick in the draft. Who has the number one pick in the draft? And that's Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
And what I
that's the
want to hit
Panthers.
on, right? And then what I want to hit on is this whole thing about Justin Fields. And is there? Do you see a scenario where they trade Justin Fields and pick Caleb Williams number one?
I think that's ridiculous if they do that. I'm sorry. So, and the reason I say that, it's however you feel about Justin Fields is however you feel about Justin Fields. That's one thing. My problem with that is Caleb Williams. I don't think he's that guy. I really don't. To me, he's I don't even know if I'd put him top 5 in the QB class right now in college football going into this draft. Caleb Williams looked awful those last couple weeks. And I know you know too because you're a Washington fan. You watched a lot of Caleb Williams.
Oh,
I don't
you better believe it.
I don't think
Better
he's
believe
that
it.
guy. And
But
if
they don't have him number one in the positional rankings, though.
he shouldn't be.
Marvin Harrison's number one. Marvin
I,
Harrison Jr. is number one, but he's number two.
yeah,
He's number two.
I don't think Williams should be that high. He
Um,
he crumbled under the pressure of playing behind a bad offensive line. I just don't think if that's going to be the same situation in Chicago, he's going to get eaten alive. He's going to be turning into Bryce Young. I'm sorry. No disrespect to Bryce Young, but he was pretty bad this year. So I already don't think very highly of Caleb Williams as it is compared to where I did last year. But I think it'd be ridiculous to trade Fields for Caleb Williams. I'm sorry. I really think it'd be ridiculous.
right. Well, um, I think number one that it's going to depend on, and it always depends on what you think as a general manager. And obviously, we've never been general managers in the NFL. We don't know, but from everything we've heard, if they think if they think that Caleb Williams is going to be better than Justin Fields, whatever. My thing is watching Caleb Williams, even playing against Washington, I think he's got more. He does have an upside. I will say that. He does. But the problem is that do you think that those mistakes that he made in college, which he made a few, are going to transfer to the pros exponentially? Because
I
the
do.
pros is a different thing.
I do. And the reason I say that is we saw how he performed under a bad offensive line at USC, which was
Mhm.
horrendous. You and I can
Right,
both agree on that.
right.
The NFL, it's not, you're going up against the best defensive lineman in the world. It doesn't matter if you're playing against the worst defense in football or not. Those are still the best defensive linemen in the world. And if they're going to put him under pressure, and if he couldn't handle himself under
Mhm,
pressure at USC, he's not going to be able to handle himself anywhere in the NFL. I don't care if it's Chicago, New England, anywhere.
mhm.
He's not going to last. I truly don't believe that. I mean, look, if he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. Right?
Right.
I have this weird feeling with every take that I've given on this show is going to end up backfiring badly. And you know what? I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised. But you know
But
what?
there's also there's also the camp that says Justin Fields will never be more than just a scrambling quarterback.
Well, I do think Fields needs to reset, go somewhere else because they haven't put the right pieces around him. We saw how well he can play. We've seen his upside, but we've also seen his downsides.
Mhm.
And me personally, if I'm Justin Fields, I wouldn't even make the GM consider it. I'd ask for a trade.
Mhm.
I just
Well,
would personally.
this is going to be the last year for both the head coach if and for Eberflus and for I believe it's Ryan Poles is his name in
Yes.
Chicago. I think this is going to be the last season. If this doesn't work, now this is interesting because you're going to have a general manager that's going to pick first,
Yeah.
and if he picks a quarterback, this could set you back, and you fire this guy. And I've seen it before with the Jets. You fire this guy, and he's made that pick for your future quarterback, and he's traded
Right.
away Justin Fields.
Oops.
What do you do with the new regime? Because new regimes always want their own guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Are they
I
going to stick
agree.
with Caleb Williams, or are they going to go somewhere else? Now, if Caleb Williams becomes like a CJ Stroud, then it's hands down. You're gonna, obviously, I think
The,
Eberflus keeps his job and Poles
yeah, of
keeps his
course.
job, and then everything's, good. But also, you got to add in free agency. They're going to be $41 million under the cap.
Hmm. So they got some
Um,
spending money.
they've got decisions they've got to make. Their cornerback Jalen Johnson, he's up for a contract. He's unrestricted. Um, there's other ones. Darnell Mooney,
Yeah.
who I'm not 100%. I mean, he's a okay number
Yeah,
two,
but nothing special like they make him out to
nothing
be.
special. But there's free agents like T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, and Mike Evans out there, and you have DJ Moore already. Yannick Ngakwe, good defensive end. Do you
Very
let
good
him go?
defensive end.
Um, Justin Jones, another defensive end. Um, but you got to remember also the defensive ends that are going to be free agents this year. Chris Jones, Justin Matabukwe,
Yeah.
and Christian Watkins are all going to be free agents this year.
Hmm.
And then they have a center, Lucas Patrick, who's very good. Eddie Jackson could be a possible cap casualty as well.
Yeah, he could be. That'd
So,
be a shame for them to lose him.
and he's got an $18.1 million cap charge, which would save them about 12.6 if they cut him.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of decisions to make. Not only the quarterback,
Everything.
they got a lot of things they got to do. And if you make a mistake with this number one
It'll
pick,
set the franchise back.
now they do have the number 8 pick as well, which is actually for them, it's actually pretty good because even if you
Yeah.
make a mistake, I mean, you really can't. Yeah, you really
You got two
making a
top 10
mistake at once
picks.
sucks. But you got 2 top 10 picks. You got to make them count. You have to make these count because these going to
Exactly.
be future guys on your team for years to come.
Yeah, I agree.
So, um, if I'm if I'm either Eberflus or Poles, I'm probably feeling some heat at this
Oh,
point
you have
with this
to.
draft. This draft is going to be very important for them.
Yeah. And
They
like
pulled off a great trade, by the way. Getting the number 1 pick from Carolina.
yeah, what a steal that ended up being.
So we know Poles can make some moves, but can they can they make the right decision at number 1? Are they going to trade back? That's another
And
thing.
I think that's what a lot of teams think may happen. I don't think they
Have to give up a
should.
lot though for that number 1 pick
I
though. Just
know.
like I mean, uh that's oh man. I don't
I wouldn't give it
I mean
up.
what okay, so here's a thing. What team do you think would move up to number 1?
Well, I'm sure the Panthers are going to be desperate to try, but that's obviously not going to happen.
If you're the top 3, you're not going to move up. If you're the Patriots, the Commanders, you don't need to move up because you're going to get one of the 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Uh,
So, unless you're not happy with where you're sitting and you think that your guy's going to go,
yeah.
um,
You know, it'd be an interesting team. I kind of see Atlanta needs a quarterback badly, in my opinion. I could see them maybe trying to make a push for that spot, but I don't know. They really have the pieces to give up
I don't
to
think they have the
get that
capital to give
spot.
up to them. I
Yeah.
I just don't think that they can.
There's not a lot of teams really outside that top 3 that I'm trying to think. Denver might
I mean,
because they need a quarterback now.
I'll bring up the order right now.
This
You've got Washington. Well, you've got so you got the Bears, you got Washington, you got Patriots. Those 3. You have
okay,
Arizona at 4. Are they
yeah,
staying with Kyler Murray?
probably
Probably.
not.
You don't think so?
No,
The
Kyler.
way they've been talking, I think they are.
I don't know. I
I don't think they
I don't
should,
I
but
don't think
the way they've been talking, they have been. That
I don't
seems like
I don't think they're gonna stick with him. I don't think Kyler wants to be there anymore.
San Diego. They
No,
got Herbert. They're not. Now this is an interesting one. Number 6, the Giants.
they're gonna stick with Jones. They're not
They're
gonna.
sticking with Jones.
Yeah, they're not gonna get another quarterback.
Tennessee at 7. They've got Will Levis.
Yeah, they're not gonna switch.
And then Atlanta at number 8, like you said.
Yeah.
By the way, I was wrong. Chicago has 9.
Oh,
Atlanta
okay.
has 8. So I'm looking at the top. So at 8 is the Falcons. The Bears have number 9, and the Jets are behind the Bears at 10, which there are thinking that the Jets are going to move out of that spot.
Yes.
And they're going to make a trade with the Broncos to go down to 12, which
Yeah,
to each his own.
yeah, I don't know how you're gonna feel about that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Helping your buddy Peyton.
Yeah. And then Minnesota's at 11. You don't know what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins
Mhm.
because he hasn't signed a contract yet.
He's coming off of a significant injury
Coming
too.
off a significant injury. You're going to have to pay Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and
So
I
you
don't think he's
reset the clock. You're going to reset the clock with a new quarterback if you get a young guy in there. The only problem is Justin Jefferson at this stage in his career going to want to work with a new quarterback. I don't think that's an issue, but I'm just looking at it from all angles. Does Minnesota want to move up? Do they have capital that they want to
I
get
don't
up?
think they will. I think if this is their last year with Cousins and Jefferson, they're gonna also try to go all out. And the big thing
Yeah.
they need is defense. Anything on defense.
Yeah.
So I would say they're not trading out of that spot.
I mean, I don't know how far you want to go down. The Broncos at 12, the Raiders at 13, the Saints at 14,
I don't know. The Raiders,
the Colts at 15, the Seahawks at 16.
The Raiders do need. I don't know. I don't think they stick with O'Connell, do
Because
they?
we know the Jacksonville Jaguars at 17 and the Bengals at 18 are not going to want a quarterback.
Yeah. So I would say Atlanta, Denver, maybe the Raiders. I don't think Chicago trades out of that spot. I don't think there's any team that can that's going to give them what they want for that first spot. So unless the Raiders give them Devontae Adams, which I doubt, I don't see anything happening there.
I'm trying to look for a team that might. Is there a possibility, Sean?
Yes.
You're wearing the hat of the team that picks number 20.
They're not getting the first pick.
Well, are they going to go? Would they move up to the top 3?
No.
Now, because we're going to talk about Washington in a second.
It's very rare.
But Washington needs a quarterback, so I don't think they're trading.
It's very rare that the Steelers trade in the draft as it is.
They traded up last year and picked the offensive lineman in front of my team.
Yeah, but that's because
so don't even say that.
Yeah, but you could thank Belichik for that. The Steelers weren't. The Patriots made the offer. Steelers like, yeah, sure, why not? You did make it.
That guy.
Yeah, I know.
And he was good this year too.
He was good this year.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any chance that they trade with it in that top 3.
Because you guys need a core. I don't care what you say about Pickett or what you say about.
I'm not convinced.
I forgot his name. They need a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm not convinced with Pickett, and even actually Art Rooney made some comments today saying, not today, this past week saying Pickett, I want to see more out of, and that's fair. But what scares me is now they said Rudolph's not a guarantee. They believe if they can't get Rudolph, they're going to get Tannehill. I don't want Tannehill, but it sounds like that might be where they go.
Right.
My concern lies with the personnel changes that have already been made. Right. They hired Arthur freaking Smith.
That we're going to talk about that when we get down to them. We'll talk about that because that's a big. That's
Arthur
a big thing.
Smith.
And by the way,
Did you
just
watch?
again,
By
if
the
you
way,
don't see it on YouTube, it's he put his terrible towel over his face.
do you watch by any chance on YouTube Urinating Tree?
No.
He's a Steelers fan. He does like football. He's very well known in the
Hmm. Well,
NFL
shout out to him. Shout out to him.
commentary community,
Right.
and he did a 1 minute reaction, and I think for about a good 10 seconds he was screaming the F word.
Yeah.
So he's a Yinzer from Pittsburgh. So
So, but here's the whole. We'll wrap this Chicago Bear thing up, and we won't go over Washington too much, just because we know they need a quarterback. So,
yes,
um, Chicago's very interesting, just because again, Justin Fields and all the other things they have surrounding them. But the other teams below them, if they do decide to trade out, um, it's only going to be a few, I think,
yeah, it
that are
won't be
gonna wanna
far
trade up, and
because
because either you're gonna put yourself out because you don't have the capital to do it, or you just don't have the need, or you just don't,
well, the
but
big thing
it
too.
just
Yeah, they need the quarterback, but they also need a lot more, especially
they
on
do, they
defense.
do,
After they
and
traded
that's what a
Young,
lot of people are saying. They need more than that. They should focus on what they need around that, and possibly they could turn Justin Fields into like maybe a Lamar. He's not gonna be close to Lamar Jackson, but
no, because he
maybe
can
they can
actually throw.
stop it. Stop it. He was the MVP. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
don't
you
say
get
nothing about him.
Burrow was hurt.
Okay, but that doesn't
Uh,
don't no. Don't bring injuries into it, because it's,
you know what?
because
Until
everybody gets
Lamar, until Lamar could prove to me he could show up in a big game, I'm not giving him credit.
but the MVP is for the regular season. He was the MVP of the regular season,
Yeah,
hands down.
king of the regular season. Where does that get you?
Okay, hating
I'll tell you
Pittsburgh
this.
Steeler fan.
Mike Tomlin said it best. You do not walk into a facility looking for personal achievements. You look for Lombardies. And now
I
the Steelers
All
haven't
right.
been doing that, but
You can
that's the
the only
standard.
the only way you could say that over me is because we've never had a head coach that's been there longer than like 5 years. So, I mean, we have, but that's back in the day. But anyway, I still I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bears do. So they have 9. Um, you know, we'll see what happens. Anyway, we'll go on to the Washington Redskins. No, I'm sorry,
Commanders. He
Commanders.
said
Oh
it.
my
He said
God,
it. And
I
you
did
said
do
San
it,
Diego earlier
and
too.
I did say San Diego. Oh my God.
First episode. My goodness.
Oh my God. And I'm not. You know what?
He's
Forget it.
never done that before. I'll
I'm
tell you
not.
that.
Well,
I've
yeah.
never heard
I
him do that before.
I haven't. I haven't. It's and I woke up early. I didn't get a lot of sleep. I'll use that as my excuse. Um, so let's go over the Commanders. They've got number 2. The Sam Howell experiment did not work.
Which I was a little disappointed in because when Sam Howell made his debut against the Cowboys the year prior, I was actually kind of looking forward to seeing what he could do because I thought he was a solid QB. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of. He didn't really show up. He didn't have a lot of pieces there. Defense obviously not that great this year. It's the Commanders. Honestly, I think are in a worse position than Chicago, where I think they need a little bit more than just QB to solve their issues.
That's true. But they had some new hires there. Let's talk about that.
True.
Dan Quinn,
Yeah. Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about
Um,
Kingsbury being there. He's not gonna get. I don't know. To me, he's mediocre at best.
so I know Stephen A did not like the hiring of Cliff Kingsbury at all. Um, and they hired Witt as their DC. Um, but a lot of stuff is coming up on Kingsbury taking that OC job at the Commanders, and them pushing out, rightly so, I think, Eric Bieniemy,
Yeah,
because now we actually saw what Eric Bieniemy actually was. But
yeah,
I don't know how much of that had to do with personnel that he had,
right.
because Sam Howell wasn't it.
Yeah, and
There's a huge difference between Sam Howell and Patrick Mahomes.
just a little. I don't
um,
know. I
and I don't
mean,
even know why I said that, but
that's funny.
it's just that's the case. But Dan Quinn's that was an interesting hire to me because you had Bill Belichick out there. The thing that it comes down to with Bill Belichick, and now and we're gonna mention this in the next thing we talk about Bill Belichick, that he told Atlanta that he didn't want control or he didn't need to have control.
Mhm. Did he actually? I didn't hear that.
That's kind of what the camp of Belichick is saying.
Yeah.
But if he didn't need control, and he went into all these interviews and said, but he only interviewed, but I think they said he only interviewed with Atlanta, which
See,
is weird.
you know why I don't think Belichick's gonna have. Here's my thing. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I just
Yeah, yeah,
with Bill Belichick. The problem is I don't. He doesn't fit today's modern. What's the word I'm looking for? He doesn't fit the modern coaching way. You can't
right.
call out guys anymore for anything. You can't discipline them or nothing because chances are they're gonna want out, and
Hmm.
that's the problem nowadays. Obviously, players, in my opinion, are so much more sensitive than they used to be. I know I sound like an old head. I really don't care at this point. I
Right.
just I don't think the modern player wants to play for a guy who's gonna what's the best way I could put it? A guy who's gonna I don't know. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I'm
I
trying
hear
to
you.
put it.
No,
I'm
I
trying to
no,
put it into words.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear
I
you.
don't think I don't think the modern player wants to play for an old school guy like
It's
Belichick.
the old regime and the new player,
Exactly. And I
which you could say that about any sport, really.
yeah, mhm.
Why do you think there's no more? Well, a lot of it has to do with analytics in baseball, the new managers,
Yeah.
and basketball. There's a lot of newer, and again, I think a lot of it has to do with the analytical part of it too. But in this case, in football, I think it might have to do with the way players are treated.
And that's the thing. And that's what I'm trying to get at cuz
And Vrabel, again, that's why Vrabel doesn't have a job either.
exactly, cuz these guys don't want to play under an old school regime. I'm sorry. I think players are just overly sensitive today. I truly
No,
believe that.
I get it. I get it. But if we look at the Dan Quinn hire, just didn't make any sense to me. I I understand you want to give the guy another shot, but I just after that game against, and I still go back to that game against the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
How do you? I mean, I know it's Tom Brady. I get it, and I even said it. I even said it myself. You know, even though it was 28 to whatever, Tom Brady's still the quarterback of the other team.
Yeah.
You don't never count them out, and I was
Mhm.
right. So
Yeah. Me and my dad called it. We literally
yeah,
said we had a bad feeling.
but the problem was is that they were too conservative.
Yeah, I agree.
They didn't want to pile on. I don't know what it was, but that was a Dan Quinn decision. I'm just not convinced that Dan Quinn can lead a team. I think he's a great coordinator. I mean, he was great in Seattle, you know,
Yeah.
and he was great. He was great in other than other than that last game. I don't know what happened there
Yeah, I think you'd
against
rather
Green
forget
Bay.
about that one.
Um, I have no idea. That Dallas Green Bay game was just
That
if
was
you're
hilarious.
he definitely didn't get hired off of that game.
No, not
Um,
at all.
but as a defensive coordinator overall, his body of work is really good.
Yes, I agree.
Um, but it just I I think the Commanders could have went a few different ways, and I think they needed. I think of all the teams that needed discipline, it was the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that if I'm the owner of the Commanders, or the several one of the owners of the Commanders, because there's a couple, I go, you know what? We're going to start from scratch, and we're going to go Bill Belichick, and we're going to give him whatever he wants,
Mhm.
and he's going to try. We're going to try to turn this team around, and whether he doesn't or not, you know,
Mm,
whatever. But at
yeah.
least you tried with one of the greatest coaches of all time.
I mean, at this point, it's almost a situation where they're probably thinking, you have to be wondering if they were thinking, why not just go for it?
Yeah, and he's
That's
going to have a new quarterback because they're going to pick a quarterback at 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, unless Belichik was thinking something different,
Well,
but
and that was my problem with Belichick is his time in New England
his
after Brady
drafts
left.
were
His drafts were horrendous.
they were non-existent. He'd trade out of the first round every time.
Exactly.
He'd
So
trade for more picks.
I
But
think that has something to do with a lot of this.
so anyway, the Commanders pick second. Everybody's saying they're taking the kid out of LSU, the quarterback,
Daniels,
um,
I think his name
Daniels,
is
Jalen Daniels, I think his
Jalen.
name is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Um, a lot of people are saying that because obviously we just talked about Chicago. They're taking Caleb Williams unless they trade out.
Yeah.
But even the team that goes number one, I think will probably end up picking Caleb Williams anyway. But um,
Whether we agree or disagree with it, you're probably right.
yeah, so Jalen Daniels probably the pick there. So now you start out with the new quarterback. You traded away one of your defensive stalwarts in what's his name?
Chase Young,
Chase Young. You still
and he's
have,
playing. He's playing in a Super Bowl tonight.
and he's playing in the Super Bowl tonight. So overall, what do you think um, the offseason holds for the Commanders this year? As far as I don't know exactly their situation cap wise, or I haven't read anything about it, but what do you think? What do you think they do as a team, and do you think they can right the ship and maybe compete in the NFC East?
Well, the big thing is obviously is they need a new quarterback. Whoever they get is a wait and see. Whether it's Daniels, Penix, Nix, whatever, we can
Mhm.
debate about that. I know we have a lot of thoughts about the QB situation going into the draft this year,
Right, but
but
I'm more for me though. I'm more of I'm very biased
oh, I know
towards
you
one
are, but
quarterback. So actually, towards two, if you think about it, because I like Bo Nix. So
yeah. But the big thing too is a quarterback's not going to fix everything. They need to rebuild that defensive line. That's the one thing that kept them in it the last couple of years.
right.
That's how that they're the reason in 2020 they managed to win the losers division of the NFC at 7 and
Uh-huh.
9. They need to go. They need to rebuild that defensive line because that's what made them a tough team to play. And if they could get a solid quarterback with that, you know what? With the way the Eagles looked last year, they could compete with Philly. They could compete with the Giants. They even competed with the Giants already with how bad they were. Dallas obviously is the big juggernaut you'd have to figure out, but I think again it comes down to the defense. Now I'm more of an old school fan, so I like tough defenses, and I maybe that's you can see why with the hat I'm wearing, the Steelers hat, but
Right.
I think a strong defense with a good quarterback can get you somewhere successful. Look at the Niners, for example, tonight. They have a very strong defense and they have an offense that's very solid. And if you have a good all around team, bam, I think they can compete for that division.
So even with the coaching changes and all that, you think that with Dan Quinn, Kingsbury,
Well, and that's the other thing I think that kind of holds them back is we talked about how bad Dan Quinn finished up his time in Dallas. I don't like Cliff Kingsbury, and that's what scares me is
a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't like Kingsbury.
whoever they draft, can he get them to that next level? And I don't know that
Right.
he can. So
Mhm.
you want my honest prediction? I don't think whatever Washington does with that coaching staff, they don't get very far. Now,
Yeah.
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't know any Commanders fans, so I really couldn't tell you how they would feel. But I think that coaching staff does hold them back,
So
especially
yeah,
Kingsbury.
I mean that's fair. I agree with I agree with a lot of that. I think the coaching staff might hold them back this year, but we'll see. Again, it's so early in the season. Um, I mean, it's not even we haven't even gotten actually as
To
of
the
this
off
recording,
season,
we haven't even gotten to the off season yet.
still got another 8
So
hours.
we still got another 8 hours. So anyway, we'll wrap up the Bears and Washington Commanders. We'll go over next week. We'll go over the next two teams. We may only go over one team next week. Just thinking about it and looking
We'll
at the
see.
time and everything. So we'll see. But let's do the last one. Let's wrap it up with Bill Belichick. Um, Are you surprised that he wasn't picked up as a head coach?
No, not at all. I don't.
And why? Why would you not be
The
surprised?
same because of what I was saying
Yeah.
earlier. New school players don't want to play with an old school regime. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I think the Chargers made the right choice in getting Harbaugh.
Hmm.
I don't think Washington wanted him. Atlanta, I think you said, was the only team that
Hmm.
had any sort of interest, and I don't think Atlanta would have gone anywhere with him. I just don't think players want to deal with it. I just don't see it. So that's
So,
how I look at it. And
okay,
you
so
look
you
at how his time ended
right.
in New England,
It didn't end good.
it
It didn't
didn't
end
end
good.
good at all.
No.
And there's a lot of people questioning his legacy
Hmm.
without Tom Brady. And you know what? I think I'm not going to sit here and disrespect his career. He's got one of the greatest coaching careers in the NFL, if not the
Hmm.
greatest.
15 wins away from Don Shula.
15 wins away from Don Shula. You
Hmm.
know what? Sometimes two pieces, when they go, when they work together, they have an unbreakable bond. And however it ended is however it ended. In the end, they got 6 rings together. You know, they were made for each other. And I think without Brady, I
Uh-huh.
don't I don't think Belichick amounts to much anywhere. Everybody thought Mac Jones could be that guy, and I honestly think they turned a promising quarterback into nothing. I don't know. There was an article that came out earlier about his future plans. I didn't read into it, but I think they
Right.
ruined Mac Jones.
I would well, if he wasn't so young, I probably would agree with that. I think he still can salvage what's left.
Oh, I agree. I think he can, but I don't.
Maybe somewhere, I don't know, maybe somewhere. Although he's got a new regime now, so but if you heard the press conference of Gerard Mayo and some of the things that Mac Jones did say, they took some shots at Coach Belichick, which, whether you think is fair or unfair, kind of tells a lot about what
Hmm.
was going on there. So I invite you to actually look at that press conference and kind of pick out some of the words that Gerard Mayo was saying about how the culture is gonna change,
Yeah,
which I would never have thought New England needed a culture change,
yeah.
the way they were
Ever.
run. So,
It still amazed me to see how bad they were this year. The fact that
well, the Jets,
my whole
we beat them.
childhood,
We beat them finally. So
yeah, what cost?
I
My
don't care. We beat the Patriots.
my whole childhood was Tom Brady tormenting the NFL. My team,
Yeah,
your team, everybody's
you weren't.
team.
Yeah, you weren't in his division. So
Yeah,
anyway,
but he still cost us a couple
he
Super
still
Bowls.
he still
Oh,
did. I agree. At least you guys made it to the playoffs. Anyway, um,
oh, these
uh,
Jets fans.
although I will say we did beat him once in the playoffs, which and I think it was either 2010 or 2011.
It was
One of those.
2011. But that's all right
2011.
because who finished you off then the next week?
Can't wait. Can't
Can't
wait.
wait.
Yeah, shut up, Sean. Anyway,
uh,
so here's my pushback to you on
okay.
on what you said. I understand, and they're very good. They're very good points. I'm going to push back with Raheem Morris and Dan Quinn. Those are the two guys that got picked over Bill Belichick. You
Okay.
mean to tell me, Mr. Sean, that you would take Raheem Morris, who has already coached in this league and
Hmm.
coached in Atlanta
Hmm.
and failed, and you would take Dan Quinn, who coached in Atlanta and failed, over Bill Belichick? I don't care. And leave if you just think about it as not the players, the new players, not
Hmm.
buying into his, whatever.
Yeah,
Think about it from who they picked.
I agree. You're not wrong. I wouldn't. I wouldn't take Quinn or Morris over Belichick,
There
but
you go.
I
That's
agree
my
with you.
point. That is
But
my point, and that's every New Englanders fan's point that
hmm,
actually liked Bill Belichick.
yeah,
How can you choose these two guys over Bill Belichick unless there was an issue with the way that he wanted to come in,
and
which
that's what I think is the case.
they're saying is not the case.
Interesting.
Um,
It's all speculation. We obviously don't know what's going to happen behind closed doors. We don't know. We can listen to all the sources. I have a saying. I joked about this when I used to do my other show. I said everybody supposedly has a source. It's how reliable are they actually? And if Belichick truly was willing to give up that power and just coach, I wouldn't have a problem with him going anywhere. But seeing how he ran things in New England post Brady is why I think they chose these teams to decide to go down different routes. Do I agree with them? No, I really don't. But I think that's the reason. I truly believe that.
so it wasn't only Bill Belichick said nothing about not wanting.
Mm-hmm,
Morris is the coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm reading from an Athletic article.
mm-hmm,
Raheem Morris is the coach of the Atlanta Falcons today because he was the best candidate for the job, not because Bill Belichick asked for too much when interviewing for the job. Team owner Arthur Blank said Friday, I want to make it 1,000% clear. I want to go to 2,000% or 100,000% or whatever you want to use. Bill Belichick never in our discussions asked for full control of personnel or the building or anything of that nature, Blank said. He was very collaborative.
okay, so
So that lead that so what do you think about that?
well, that's one source. I just
That's from the owner.
that's from the owner
That's from the
saying.
owner. It's quoted. It's quoted.
So then, if that's the case, that's on the owner.
Okay,
That's on
good.
the owner.
At least we agree with that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Um, why? And well, we may never find out why Arthur Blank said he was never gonna. Um, and he doesn't even say here. He said the interviews were excellent. Said Blank, who referred to the former New England Patriots as a living legend. We learned a lot during the process. Anybody would.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was. Blank said it is totally not true. The Falcons were uncomfortable with Belichick because he asked to be in charge of all things Atlanta football. He never did the requirement. He has his history, his way of doing things. We were very impressed. He was never, and he redoes it again. He was never capital Never offered the job. Blank said.
So they never even made him an offer after the
Right,
interview.
right.
Yeah,
So
it's weird too.
this is just weird. It's a weird situation to me,
It
though.
is weird because you have two teams that right now are projected to go nowhere, both Atlanta
No,
and
they're not. They're not
Washington.
going anywhere.
They're
I,
not
I
going
I
anywhere.
would.
But
I may
the other
I may
thing
I
I
may bet
wonder,
$100 on it.
how I ask you this. Let's say either of these two teams do go and get Belichick. If they did get Belichick,
Hmm.
does he does he does he uplift these teams? I think I can see it in Atlanta because we see how much of a train wreck the NFC South is. But you look at like a Washington, how much better do they get with Belichick, being that he's still being given a crappy product? I'm sorry, I'm gonna put it bluntly. They do not have neither team really has that great of a roster.
Right,
I ask you that.
right. But I think given the rosters that the two teams have, I would like to think that his thinking would be different than in New England. That he can't just rely on, but that he would maybe learn from what he did in New England, as like after Brady, it didn't work out so
See,
well.
that's also tough because he has run the same sort of system his whole
His
career.
defense, but you can't argue with his
No,
defense.
you cannot. I won't
He can
argue.
plug guys like, I don't know, anybody in his defense, and they become superstars.
I agree.
Look
I
at
agree
Kyle Van
100%.
Noy. Kyle Van Noy's never been any when he where did he go? He went to Detroit, I think, or LA. I
Was
don't
it
know.
Detroit? I don't remember.
I don't know. But he's not been the same player. I mean, he's been good, but he's not been, you know, the
No, he
same
hasn't
player
been
he was with
himself.
Belichick.
Yeah, and
But he can
again, it's not
he had a
something I
rookie
will
playing
argue.
he had a rookie playing corner in what is his name? Gonzalez or
Hmm.
he played out of his mind, that kid, before he got hurt.
Yeah,
So I think defensively, any team with Belichick is going to be better than they were.
I agree.
It's just offensively, if he picks the right person, that's
Hmm.
my thing. He didn't pick the right people. The whole thing with having his old defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, run the offense was what is he thinking?
Exactly.
That was the decision that kind of, I think, put the Patriots over the edge there.
Yeah, it
And then
had to.
even Bill O'Brien, not the greatest. Okay.
Hmm.
Not the greatest.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Well, regardless of however this turns out, if if by some miracle Washington or Atlanta somehow manages to perform, this will probably never be a discussion again. But if
yeah.
Washington and Atlanta fail, like we think they
Mhm,
might,
mhm.
you can imagine, you can definitely guarantee those markets next offseason could be thinking, well, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
And I'm
So,
sure they probably already are.
I
I'm
wanna
sure they
get
probably
your
are.
I wanna get your prediction. Belichick coaches in 2025, yes or no? With
Mm,
knowing that there are coaches that are on the hot seat. Jets,
Giants.
possibly the Giants, possibly your team.
Yeah. I'll say yes. I think
You think so?
I think
Okay. I'm
so.
not asking you to don't pick a team. I just
Okay.
want you to say I think he does too. I think he maybe he takes a year off. Maybe he goes into the
And
Fox
you know,
booth
maybe
for a
that's
year.
not the worst thing in the world for him to take a year off because
Yeah.
man's been doing it consistently since what, the mid '90s?
24 years in New England. And then
Exactly. He had his years
he
in
was a
Cleveland and
Giants. Yeah, he was a
Giants.
Giants defensive coordinator with Bill Parcells. Then he followed him to the Jets. Um, and then he went to Cleveland.
Yeah,
And then 24 years he's been with the New England Patriots. So, um, I don't know. I just think he's the greatest coach in my time.
yeah,
He has really, to me, no rival. Everybody can
I
say
agree.
Andy Reid all they want.
No,
You could say Tomlin. I think
nope,
Tomlin is closer than Reid, even
I agree.
though
You know,
um,
Reed, I think, has gonna have more Super Bowls.
he will probably. But I still think as a complete coach, I think Andy Reid is a really good offensive mind.
I
I just
agree.
don't think completely. I think Tomlin completely. He's a full. You have to be a CEO. I think Tomlin is a CEO. Bill Belichick is a CEO. Andy Reid is like a manager.
Yeah.
If you want to compare the two, like business wise.
Hmm.
And definitely we'll talk more about NFL next week. Any
Yes.
closing comments you'd like to?
Nothing. I'm had a blast. You know, it's our third different stream of the day, so had a
Yeah, I
busy
know.
day. I'm
A
having
busy day.
fun though. Having
Yeah,
fun
me
though.
too.
So I'm
Me
glad
too.
we got this going. And sucks football season ends tonight, but
Yeah.
still plenty happening over the next several months as we will
Yeah.
soon count down towards opening day in the NFL.
There is plenty happening for sure. All right, Sean, thank you. And thanks everybody. And again, like, comment, subscribe down below, and we will see you again next week.
Have a good one.